Mob Tymes the worst deal I ever signed. I should have just went to Atlantic by myself.
Finesse2tymes was talking about the deal he signed with Mob Ties, the label connected to J. Prince Jr. What looked like a major career move quickly turned into a messy situation packed with tension, accusations, and serious fallout. Now the contract drama has reportedly pulled J. Prince Sr. into the middle of it too, and people close to the situation are acting like this could turn into a real disaster if things keep escalating. The agreement between Finesse2tymes and Mob Ties Entertainment was supposed to change everything for him. Mob Ties, run by J. Prince Jr., carries major weight because of the Prince family name and their deep roots in the rap business. With Rap-A-Lot's legacy behind them and industry connections everywhere, the setup looked powerful on paper. A lot of people believe Finesse2tymes was about to level up in a huge way. Mob Ties also operates under Atlantic Records, so the path from signing the deal to getting a full major label push was expected to move fast. But according to Finesse2tymes, things did not play out like that at all.
Mob Tymes the worst deal I ever signed. I should have just went to Atlantic by myself.
In his eyes, the promises and the reality were nowhere near the same, and that frustration has become the center of this entire dispute. From Finesse2tymes' perspective, signing with Mob Ties did not create opportunities for him, it actually blocked them. He believes the deal ended up shutting him out from Atlantic instead of opening the door like it was supposed to. And according to him, the problem was never about work ethic or effort. He says he stayed active the entire time, kept making moves, and never stopped finding ways to bring money in.
I got gold plaques because I'm having motion. I make 20, 30,000 out the streets every day.
Finesse2tymes made it clear he was not sitting around waiting for the label to save his career. He says he stayed grinding through independent hustle, street income, online platforms like OnlyFans, and what he described as all off the action. The cash flow was still there, but the major industry support he expected from the label supposedly never appeared. In his eyes, the connections, business relationships, placements, and behind-the-scenes opportunities that labels are known for were missing completely. And that became a major issue in the middle of this growing contract fallout.
Why is it motherfuckers that ain't got no hits? Nothing, I ain't accomplished nothing. How in the f is they getting in these rooms? I ain't getting in, cuz.
That is where the real frustration started building for Finesse2tymes. It was not about him failing or struggling to stay relevant. In his mind, artists with less motion, less buzz, and fewer accomplishments were still getting access to major industry spaces that he believed should have been open to him too. And the people controlling that access were the same people he trusted to help move his career forward. So what does Finesse2tymes claim the label actually contributed? According to him, barely anything.
The record label ain't gave me nothing. Nadine Robinson Jr. I'm talking about a pecan.
He even compared Mob Ties' impact on his career to a pecan, making it clear he felt the support was extremely small compared to what was promised. That resentment reportedly kept growing behind the scenes long before the public heard about the dispute. Finesse2tymes says he tried handling the situation privately first. He claims he reached out directly to J. Prince Jr. multiple times, hoping to fix the issues, but nothing changed. The contract stayed active, while, in his view, the label stayed quiet and inactive. Finesse2tymes says he felt trapped in what he now calls the worst deal of his entire career. According to him, that contract became the starting point for every problem that followed afterward. The money disputes, the public accusations, the tension with J. Prince Sr., and all the drama tied to Mob Ties reportedly connects back to that one agreement he believes damaged his momentum in the industry. As the situation kept getting worse, the frustration reportedly turned deeper than just business disagreements. Finesse2tymes paints the deal as a major mistake that affected not only his career opportunities, but also the trust he had in the people around him. And once money became part of the conversation, things started getting even more heated. When business partnerships fall apart, finances usually become the biggest issue, and that appears to be exactly what happened here. The financial side of the fallout between Finesse2tymes and J. Prince Jr. has become one of the most talked about parts of the entire conflict because it allegedly exposed deeper problems behind the scenes. Finesse2tymes has openly admitted he lost money during the situation, and he does not shy away from saying it publicly.
Didn't I tell y'all I millions of dollars off? I told y'all I millions of dollars off.
But at the same time, he makes it clear that the money itself is not the main thing bothering him.
I'm past it. I used to be fucked up about it. I'm past that part. I ain't worried about being up about the money no more.
According to his argument, the bigger issue runs much deeper than dollars and contracts alone. Past it. That is how Finesse2tymes describes the money he says he lost during the situation.
I can go get a lot of more money, and I can go get it a whole lot faster if you let me out this contract.
He does not sound defeated by it, and he is not acting desperate to recover every dollar. Instead, he talks like somebody who already accepted the loss and moved on mentally. But right after saying that, he shifts the entire conversation in a different direction. For Finesse2tymes, the real problem is not the missing money, it is the contract itself. He is not begging for repayment or trying to squeeze out a huge payout. According to him, the agreement is the one thing standing between him and the next stage of his career. In his eyes, if that contract disappeared tomorrow, he believes he could bounce back quickly and get right back in position. But buried in the middle of this dispute is one specific money issue that seems to hit harder than everything else combined. The argument reportedly involves a private jet, expensive jewelry, and even a music video budget. Those details became major talking points from people close to J. Prince Jr., who allegedly pointed to those things as proof that Mob Ties invested heavily into Finesse2tymes and supported his career behind the scenes. The message from that side appeared clear. The label spent serious money on him, gave him access to luxury experiences, and looked out for him financially. Some even framed it as a reason he should appreciate the deal more than he does, but Finesse2tymes completely pushes back against that narrative and shuts it down with one sharp response that changes the whole angle of the argument.
I paid for a jet ride and jewelry for a video that got him rich.
According to Finesse2tymes, the private jet rides and jewelry were never gifts at all. He claims those flashy moments were not the label spending money out of generosity or investing in him freely. In his version of events, those costs were allegedly charged back against his own earnings, and he says he did not even realize it until he finally saw the paperwork. Finesse2tymes describes that discovery like a major betrayal.
I paid for that. See, I ain't know that I was paying for all that. I paid for it. I ain't know that at first, though. I ain't know that until I got the paperwork.
At first, he believed the label was showing real support and treating him like a priority artist. The luxury lifestyle, the flights, the jewelry, all of it looked like proof that the team was fully behind him and helping him level up in the industry. But according to him, the paperwork told a completely different story. What was presented publicly as label support allegedly turned into expenses tied directly to his own account. And to make things worse in his eyes, he says the music video connected to all of it ended up making money mainly for the label instead of benefiting him the way he expected.
Whole time this was for a video that they made money off.
So from Finesse2tymes' point of view, he ended up paying for the private jet himself, paying for the jewelry himself, and then watching the video tied to those expenses bring in revenue that mostly benefited other people instead of him. That is the part of the situation that seems to bother him the most, because what looked like support behind the scenes allegedly became another financial charge connected to his own work. According to Finesse2tymes, this issue fits into the bigger picture he has been trying to explain about the deal from the beginning. In his eyes, it was not only about the label failing to actively push his career forward. He believes the structure of the agreement was built in a way that allowed others to profit from his momentum while making it appear publicly like they were heavily investing in him. And despite all the tension surrounding the deal, Finesse2tymes says he never stopped working. He kept recording, stayed in the studio, and continued dropping music, including collaborations with Glorilla, who was one of the hottest names in rap at the time.
I'm going to the studio and making good music. Records with Glorilla, records with this person, records with... The label won't even do what they supposed to do.
Finesse2tymes was landing major collaborations that many artists would dream about, including records connected to some of the biggest names moving in rap at the time. From his perspective, those kinds of features should have been easy opportunities for a label to build momentum around, but he says nothing ever fully moved the way it was supposed to.
I can't be the quarterback and the wide receiver. You want me to throw the ball and catch the motherfucker? I'm going to the studio and making good music.
According to Finesse2tymes, all he really wanted was the chance to focus on making music and growing as an artist. Instead, he claims he was forced to handle everything himself, like throwing the ball down the field and then running to catch it with nobody helping him. In his eyes, there was no real support system, no industry infrastructure, and no sign the label was stepping in to help push things forward. The frustration over the contract, the money disputes, and the alleged lack of support kept building until the situation finally exploded into public view. things reportedly reached another level when J. Prince Jr. shared a social media post talking about mirrors and victims. Even though Finesse2tymes was never directly named, many people believe the message was aimed squarely at him, and that post pushed the conflict fully into the spotlight. According to Finesse2tymes, J. Prince Jr. jumped into the comment section of a post from Akademiks that was reacting to statements Finesse2tymes had already made publicly. The comment allegedly focused on a very specific type of person, somebody who lost a fortune and refused to accept responsibility for it.
There ain't no victim bigger on the earth than a man who blew $1 million and is having trouble getting it back.
Finesse2tymes says the message started with that idea and then followed up with 2 more pointed lines. One about a man losing $1 million and blaming everyone else, and another centered around accountability.
It's harder to look in the mirror than it is to point a finger.
Even without directly naming anybody, the meaning behind the post seemed obvious to a lot of people watching the situation unfold online. At that point, Finesse2tymes had already been speaking publicly about losing money and criticizing the label over how things were handled. So when J. Prince Jr.'s comments appeared, many took it as a direct response telling Finesse2tymes to stop blaming others and instead look at himself for the problems surrounding the deal. Finesse2tymes responded in stages, and the first thing that caught people off guard was how honest he sounded. He did not deny losing money, and he did not pretend every decision he made was perfect. Instead, he openly admitted he made mistakes along the way, but at the same time, he made it clear he was not willing to let the entire situation be pinned only on him.
So yes, I have been disloyal. Yes, I have run off. Yes, I have made the wrong decision.
That level of honesty is something most people avoid during a public dispute, especially when emotions are already running high online. But for Finesse2tymes, admitting those losses was never the end of the conversation. It was actually the setup for the bigger point he wanted to make afterward. The moment J. Prince Jr. brought up accountability and looking in the mirror, Finesse2tymes reportedly drew a hard line between their experiences. His response was not really about denying his own mistakes. Instead, he questioned whether J. Prince Jr. had the right to lecture him about struggle, pressure, and survival in the first place.
Difference between me and you is, I was forced. You was in the streets by choice. I was in the streets by force.
That became one of the main themes behind Finesse2tymes' argument. He was not simply attacking J. Prince Jr. personally for no reason. He was challenging what he saw as a disconnect between their backgrounds and life experiences. In his eyes, there is a difference between people who grew up choosing street involvement and people who felt forced into difficult environments from the start, and he believed that difference mattered heavily in this entire clash.
You are blessed in abundance. You are a privileged person, a privileged child.
And then the situation shifted even further.
Because where I come from, they don't teach you the things that privileged families teach you.
At that point, Finesse2tymes was no longer just defending himself publicly. He started pushing back hard against the entire narrative surrounding the dispute. In his eyes, J. Prince Jr.'s comments were designed to paint him as somebody avoiding accountability, but Finesse2tymes completely rejected that image and challenged the message head-on. According to Finesse2tymes, there is a major difference between someone who grows up connected to power, money, and a respected family name versus someone who had to fight through difficult situations without those advantages. He argued that when a person is born into an established legacy tied to one of the most influential names in rap, their advice about struggle, responsibility, and looking in the mirror may not hit the same way for people whose paths were completely different. After making that point, Finesse2tymes reportedly circled back to what he believes was the real issue all along: the structure of the business relationship itself.
I'm not the CEO. I'm not signed with Atlantic. Mob Ties is. I'm just a rapper. It's y'all job to push the pen and the pad across the table and get the job done.
From his perspective, his responsibility was simple: make the music and create records people wanted to hear. Meanwhile, he believed the label's role was to market the songs, secure opportunities, and push the music to bigger audiences. And when the records failed to fully break through despite major collaborations, he felt the blame unfairly landed on him instead of the system around him. What Finesse2tymes said next became one of the sharpest and most talked about moments in the entire dispute.
It's not my fault that they really don't like you. So now I'm a victim of circumstances. And now you telling me to look in the mirror.
His response was simple but loaded with meaning. It's not my fault that they really don't like you. That one line completely shifted the direction of the argument and instantly got people online debating what he really meant. With that statement, Finesse2tymes appeared to suggest that the problems surrounding his music were not only about timing, promotion, or strategy. Instead, he hinted that bigger relationship issues behind the scenes may have affected how his records were handled. Without directly spelling it out, he seemed to imply that mob ties may not have had the strongest standing with certain people connected to Atlantic Records, and that those tensions could have impacted the support needed to fully push his music forward. That accusation added a whole new layer to the conflict because it questioned not just the deal itself, but also the influence and connections behind it. For many people watching the situation unfold, it became one of the most damaging claims made during the entire public fallout. And after that, the tone of the situation changed fast. What started as complaints about contracts, money, and label support reportedly turned into something much more personal and explosive. By the time Finesse2tymes recorded the clip that spread everywhere online, the conversation had moved way beyond business disagreements. The situation had become emotional, unpredictable, and intense enough to pull one of the most respected names in hip-hop history directly into the center of the conflict. At that point, J. Prince Sr. officially stepped into the conversation. The founder of Rap-A-Lot Records is a major figure whose name carries serious influence in Houston, throughout hip-hop, and across the music business overall. Once he publicly appeared to defend his son, many people expected Finesse2tymes to ease up or move more carefully moving forward. But instead of backing down, Finesse2tymes reportedly went in the opposite direction completely.
Yeah, see, I know that about the real street niggas. The real stand-up, the men. Not all of those slow talking.
He stopped speaking in vague shots and started addressing J. Prince Sr. directly.
With a bald spot, with a montage hat, trying to be your daddy. He the gangster, he the one laid this down.
The tone became sharper, more confrontational, and impossible to ignore as the situation kept heating up online. According to many people watching the back and forth unfold, some of Finesse2tymes' comments sounded intentionally provocative. He reportedly mocked the legendary reputation surrounding J. Prince Sr. and challenged the level of respect people automatically give his name. Rather than avoiding the Prince family's influence, Finesse2tymes appeared willing to confront it head-on in public. One of the biggest moments came when Finesse2tymes allegedly said,
"We don't believe you. You nobody."
Directed towards someone with J. Prince Sr.'s reputation, those words immediately grabbed attention everywhere online. In hip-hop culture, where reputation, history, and respect carry enormous weight, publicly dismissing a figure tied to decades of influence is viewed as a major escalation, and many people saw that moment as the point where the conflict crossed into extremely serious territory. But what happened next in that same clip mattered just as much as the direct shots at J. Prince Sr. After coming at him publicly, Finesse2tymes suddenly shifted the conversation, and that turn revealed what he was really trying to say underneath all the tension.
And I know that your pops say he gonna defend you and I not respect the game. But you know he got a sucker for a son.
Finesse2tymes admitted that a father defending his son is something most people can understand. He even said he respected that part of the situation. But then he flipped that point into another criticism aimed straight at J. Prince Jr. According to Finesse2tymes, the bigger question was why his father needed to step into the situation at all if J. Prince Jr. could handle business on his own. That is when Finesse2tymes delivered one of the harshest lines from the entire exchange, saying, "He got a sucker for a son." The comment instantly added more heat to an already explosive public feud and pushed the tension between both sides even higher. Then came the moment that sparked the biggest reaction online and had everybody breaking down every word Finesse2tymes said. The challenge he put out instantly became the center of debate because people were trying to figure out exactly what message he was sending.
"You don't do no real nigga like that. Call me. Why you can't talk to me?"
Those were the words that had social media going crazy. On the surface, Finesse2tymes framed it as a direct invitation to settle the issue face to face. According to him, he wanted a real conversation and an opportunity to address the situation directly instead of continuing the public back and forth online. He even made it sound simple, saying he was not looking for more chaos or endless arguing. In his version of events, he wanted dialogue and resolution. But the bigger context surrounding those words made the situation feel far more intense to many people paying attention. Right before making that statement, Finesse2tymes had already publicly disrespected J. Prince Sr.'s reputation and criticized J. Prince Jr. with some extremely harsh comments. So when he followed that up with a challenge to call me and meet in person, the tone of the situation immediately became much heavier. In hip-hop culture and street culture, public challenges between high-profile figures can carry layered meanings depending on the history, the tension, and the language being used. That is why so many people reacted strongly to the clip and started debating what Finesse2tymes truly intended by it. The combination of direct insults, public pressure, and an invitation to meet face-to-face created a moment that felt explosive even without any direct threats being made. That is really where the weight of this entire story comes from, not from one single statement alone, but from how all the pieces connected together: the public disrespect toward a legendary figure, the criticism aimed at his son, and the challenge issued afterward with emotions already running high. For people familiar with the culture surrounding these situations, every word carried extra pressure and deeper meaning. Then Finesse2tymes closed the clip with a line that made it impossible to ignore just how angry he sounded.
Get to the end.
It was not the tone of somebody calmly saying, "Let's work this out," or "I'm open to fixing things." The emotion in his words sounded much heavier than that. The way he spoke came across like somebody who felt pushed to the limit after carrying frustration for a long time. At the same time, one of the biggest contradictions throughout this entire public fallout is that Finesse2tymes has repeatedly claimed he wants the conflict to end. Even while using aggressive language in public callouts, he continued saying he wanted J. Prince Jr. to contact him directly, sit down, and have a real conversation about resolving the issue. According to Finesse2tymes, he was not demanding apologies or trying to force sympathy from anybody involved.
Ask for support, I ain't asked for remorse.
He kept bringing the focus back to one thing over and over again: let me out of the contract. In his eyes, everything else that followed, the online tension, the heated comments, the public disrespect, and the emotional outbursts, all built up because that request allegedly kept getting ignored. Now, the biggest question people started asking afterward was whether Finesse2tymes crossed the line into something more serious with his words. Some online even framed the situation using terms like putting a hit on somebody, but that interpretation depends entirely on how people choose to read the language being used. If people take the phrase literally as a direct call for physical harm or organized violence, there is nothing publicly available that confirms that claim. What the videos, interviews, and transcripts actually show is an artist who appears deeply frustrated with a contract situation and who used intense confrontational language to publicly pressure the people he believes controlled his career opportunities. The controversy grew because of the emotion, the cultural context, and the aggressive tone surrounding the dispute, not because of any verified evidence showing direct threats or criminal actions. That distinction became extremely important as the story spread across social media and hip-hop discussions online. In the worlds that both Finesse2tymes and J. Prince Jr. operate in, the streets, the rap industry, and the overlap between those environments, public disrespect is often viewed as something serious, not just random internet talk. That is why comments like calling J. Prince Sr. nobody, labeling J. Prince Jr. a sucker, and publicly challenging them to meet up created such a huge reaction online. Within that culture, words can carry major weight depending on who says them, who they are aimed at, and the history connected to the people involved. Many people watching the situation unfold understood why those statements instantly raised tensions and turned the disagreement into something much bigger than a normal business dispute. But despite all the heated moments, Finesse2tymes kept circling back to the same message throughout nearly every interview, rant, livestream, and public statement. According to him, the core issue was not revenge, retaliation, or creating chaos just for attention.
I can go get a lot of more money, and I can go get it a whole lot faster if you let me out this contract.
The request he continued repeating was simple: let me out. He wanted freedom from the contract he believed was holding his career back. Everything else tied to the situation, the private jet accusations, the jewelry chargebacks, the public insults, and the emotional exchanges online, all became part of the noise surrounding that one unresolved business problem. When stripped down to the basics, Finesse2tymes' argument is centered around the belief that the deal failed to deliver what he expected from it. From his perspective, he continued making music, generating attention, and finding ways to earn income independently, while the label allegedly failed to provide the industry support he thought would come with the agreement. And meanwhile, he feels the contract still limits his ability to move forward freely, while public responses from the other side focus more on accountability and personal responsibility than releasing him from the deal. Whether Finesse2tymes claims would actually hold up in court or inside a contract dispute is something nobody can fully determine from live streams, Instagram posts, or emotional public rants alone. Questions about whether mob ties failed to meet obligations or whether some of the problems came from Finesse2tymes' own business decisions would ultimately come down to attorneys, paperwork, and formal legal review if the situation ever reached that level. But based on the public statements available, one thing does seem clear. Finesse2tymes genuinely feels wronged by the deal and everything that came with it. He believes the agreement was presented to him one way and played out very differently behind the scenes. According to him, the costs tied to the private jet and jewelry were not fully understood until the financial paperwork showed up, which reportedly left him feeling blindsided. Finesse2tymes also believes the label had the connections, resources, and infrastructure needed to help elevate his career, but chose not to fully use those opportunities on his behalf. And in his view, when he tried addressing those frustrations privately, the response was not a resolution, but public criticism that painted him as the main issue in the situation. Meanwhile, J. Prince Jr.'s side, at least based on the comments Finesse2tymes referenced publicly, appears focused on accountability. The message tied to those posts suggested that people who lose major money while blaming others around them eventually have to look inward and accept responsibility for their own decisions too. That viewpoint from J. Prince Jr.'s side is understandable, and many people would probably agree there is some truth in it. But Finesse2tymes' response also connects with a lot of people because he argues that J. Prince Jr. came into the industry with access, influence, and opportunities already around him. According to Finesse2tymes, that background makes it harder for someone in that position to fully relate to people who grew up without those same advantages or safety nets. That is why this dispute has become so layered and complicated online. Both sides are presenting arguments that many people see as believable in different ways. Finesse2tymes may have made business mistakes along the road, while at the same time the label may also have failed to provide the level of support and opportunity he expected from the partnership. What nobody can deny is that the situation remains unresolved. Finesse2tymes is reportedly still tied to the contract, and there has been no public confirmation that J. Prince Jr. plans to release him from the deal. Meanwhile, the public exchanges between both sides have only become more intense, especially after J. Prince Sr.'s name entered the middle of the conflict. One of the reasons the story exploded online is because of the energy and tone behind Finesse2tymes' public statements. The language sounded aggressive, emotional, and confrontational, which led many people to describe the situation as an all-out public war between both sides. But when it comes to claims suggesting anything beyond heated words and public pressure, there is no verified evidence publicly confirming criminal intent or organized violence. At the end of the day, much of the speculation comes from how people interpret the language, the culture surrounding the dispute, and the emotions attached to it. The people closest to the situation likely understand the full reality better than anyone watching from the outside, and publicly, neither side has fully clarified every detail behind the scenes. What is clear now is that Finesse2tymes has officially drawn a hard line in public. He openly challenged the Prince family name, called the contract the biggest mistake of his career, and finally said out loud everything he apparently felt was being ignored behind closed doors. At this point, the pressure is fully out in the open, and all eyes are now on J. Prince Jr. to see whether he responds or stays silent while the tension keeps building. No matter which side people agree with, this situation has already turned into one of the most talked about contract disputes in hip-hop online because of the emotions, the public call-outs, and the serious accusations being thrown around. And judging by how heated things have already become, the next chapter could bring even more attention to this fallout. If you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, share this with somebody following the story, and drop your thoughts in the comments below.